Hello everyone, I'm Bable Jonathan and this is the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital. Dwelling our top stories, 2 persons dead at a construction site here in the economic capital, Douala today. The death was provoked by a landslide earlier today, and a woman is now detained at the judicial police in the nation's economic capital here in Douala, of course, after she allegedly poisoned her husband to death. Those were top stories. Thanks for joining in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. 2 persons have died at the construction site here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. They died after the collapse of that is the landslide that provoked the collapse of a retaining wall that was being constructed in Lokpom. It is a neighborhood in the Douala 3 municipality, and the accident occurred today. A massive landslide at the construction site provoked the death of 2 of the 4 workers who were working at that construction site, and after the landslide, 2 of the 4 workers died on the spot, and the corpses were being transported to a local hospital mortuary by elements of the fire fighting brigade or the rescue soldiers who rushed to the scene. And of course, the incident occurred earlier today. We'll be bringing to you greater details of this event, this happening in a subsequent news edition. In a similar story, lady is now being detained at the judicial police in Bonanjo here in Douala after she allegedly poisoned her husband to death over a love affair. She was detained at the Nkululu Gendarmerie Brigade and later transferred to the Bonanjo Judicial Police. Details with Smartjik and Gabriel.
It was an immense crowd that invaded the family compound of Labaran Tuesday evening. We are at the new town Ariopo neighborhood in the Douala 3 council area, where a woman has just poisoned his husband. Whenever both have a little confrontation, the wife will always threaten to kill her husband. And it is already 3 weeks since the man asked her to leave his house. But the woman said it's only her dead body that will leave. It's just 2 weeks left for him to get married, and the woman poisons his food without anyone knowing. The stepdaughter of the woman even recounted her ordeal when she returned from school Tuesday evening. As I returned from school and kept my bag, I thought my father was in the room. And as I went to ease myself, my mom asked me to drink the urine. It was in this house, guided by gendarmes, that Adama Larry was hidden as the angered population wanted to lynch her. At the mosque, the lifeless body of Labaran has been reserved. His daughter recounts to us the condition of the father when he was brought to the military hospital for checkup.
I've been in the hospital for morning time.
I was in the hospital when I was informed that my father was not feeling well.
Let me say, it's vomit.
And when I asked what was wrong, I was told he was throwing out not food, but saliva.
Check and tell me.
When they brought him to the hospital, every check was done, and he gave up the ghost while he was about to be scanned.
They go make scanner, and for scanner we don't die.
This cat is also a victim of the poisoned food of Adama Larry. The transportation of the said culprit was also a hectic one for the security officials. Mr. Labaran was heading for his second wife before he met his Waterloo, and his body has been reserved until investigation are over.
That was the story of a lady who allegedly killed her husband by poisoning his food following a love affair, and she's now been detained in Bonanjo in the nation's economic capital, Douala. And I told you earlier that 2 persons died after the collapse of a huge quantity of soil that is in Lokpom in the Douala 5 municipality, and we have the images of an accident that occurred earlier today on the Douala-Yaoundé highway, notably around Matom, and the circulation was paralyzed in that part of the country as a result of that accident that occurred earlier today involving a heavy-duty truck and another vehicle that came into collision in that part of the country. After the heavy-duty truck collapsed on the road, the circulation was seriously paralyzed at the level of Matom on the Douala-Yaoundé highway. Now we go over to Mbanga in the Mongo Division, littoral region of the country, where over 20 inhabitants of Idiki are still residing at the party house. They fled their homes in Idiki village, southwest region of the country, as a result of a rising violence provoked by confrontations between armed civilians and security and defense forces. Details in this report.
There were over 400 inhabitants of a Idiki village in the southwest region of Cameroon who arrived in Banga in the littoral region Friday. Violence and gun battles between armed civilians and security and defense forces forced them out of their houses. Many of them have left Mbanga for other parts of the country, while some are gradually returning to their village. Over 20 of them are still at the Mbanga party house. They are living on aid from local authorities, men and women of goodwill, and non-governmental organizations like the Ayo Foundation.
We came to provide some help, some aid for our citizens from the Meme division that are here in Banga. The complaints, it's true they cannot be taking care of us if they are at home, but at least for the moment it is very encouraging, and we hope they will be same until they return home, whenever there will be peace at Idiki.
They are waiting for the socio-political and security situation in their village to return to normalcy so that they can go back home. In the meantime, the massive arrival of inhabitants of Idiki village in Banga provoked fears of a possible escalation of the Anglophone crisis to that part of the littoral region and other parts of the country east of the Mungo.
We are equally afraid because Idiki to Mbanga is a stone throw, so you can equally extend to Mbanga if care is not taken.
They are calling on government to find lasting solutions to the socio-political impasse in the 2 Anglophone regions before the situation gets out of control.
Officials of the secondary education subsector in Cameroon met today in the nation's political capital Yaoundé to evaluate the current school year. That's the 2017-2018 academic year, and the third and last term of the year started last Monday. And in the following extract we have some details concerning the 2017-2018 academic year, notably in the 2 Anglophone regions of Cameroon. First, the Southwest Regional Delegate of Secondary Education, and then the Minister of Secondary Education, Pauline Nalova Lyonga.
I just wish to say that in the Southwest region, classes are going on normally in most of our institutions, especially those at areas that are not affected by the trouble that we have. The areas that are affected, classes are not going on there. And so with the classes going on where they are going on now, we are quite sure everything will be in order up to the end of the year.
The situation is also very, very, very hopeful. We are hopeful. We can only be hopeful, because that is why I'm saying that there are more students. If we had less students last year, it's because of the the low enrollment of last year. If we have more this year, it's because of the students who have come to register. As you can see in Yaoundé, you know, some schools have done their best to try to expand and taking all the students who have come from the northwest and the southwest. I need to congratulate those schools, but as I told them yesterday, you cannot over-expand because there is a limit to expansion, because you will now compromise the results, you know, but they can do the best that they can do. So I'm saying that many students have migrated from those regions to come to Yaoundé. You know, as a result of that, I think that those who have gone back and who have opened some of the Catholic schools, some of the other schools that have opened, I think they're going to make the number better. And we hope that the performance is going to be much better.
Now, members of the press card issuance Commission met today in the nation's political capital to examine a number of files tabled by journalists desiring to acquire the press card, and the meeting was chaired by the Commission's President Severin Chunke, and during that meeting the Press Card Issuance Commission members received were examining 60 files from some journalists in the Republic of Cameroon who are desiring to acquire the press card, and 12 of the 60 files were rejected for various shortcomings. Now here's an extract of what Tabe Enonchong, member of that commission, told Marcelin Gansop in Yaoundé.
For now, they are quite a good number, especially given that we just started. You heard the president say during the closing of the session that for a telephone company like Orange, for instance, all journalists who already have their cards have a reduction for some complete free calls. Any product you want to buy from Orange Cameroon, be it a modem, be it a telephone, you have a reduction. And recently we equally got into a partnership with SM Brussels for flights. Everybody with a press card has a 15% reduction for every flight they are taking from SM Brussels.
So far also have talked about, they talked about the files that have been examined. How many files?
Today particularly we examined 60 files. Of the 60, 12 were rejected, 28 were accepted, and 20 others were accepted while awaiting the completion of their files. There are many who sent files that were incomplete. We didn't have things like your contract, things like your insurance, and all those. We did not just reject them completely. We just accepted them, and in the days ahead they will receive phone calls to come and complete whatever document that they didn't have in their files.
Some journalists have complained that they don't actually see the importance of having the press card in view of the fact that when they go, like, say, for example, hotels or the advantages that is presented,
there are many
actually respect them. So what is going to be different this time?
It's going to be different. Why didn't you need, if you, like you heard the president say, a list of all those with press cards are already going to be sent to all those structures. If you want to travel to Douala, for instance, or to Marua, there in Marua, the major hotels are going to have those lists so that when you come and you say you're a journalist and you have a press card, it'll be easy for them to verify that you actually have it, so that they can give you the benefits that go with it. So it's just for us to have the cards first, because you cannot have the free subscription in Orange, for instance, if you do not have the card. And if you go to SM Brussels and you do not have the card, you're not going to have the reduction. So when you have the card and you go to all those places that we've been able to have partnerships with, then you're going to have the benefits. But first of all, even as a journalist yourself, you need to identify yourself as a journalist in the midst of everybody, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where they'll say this person is from STV, this one is from CRTV, this one is from Canada. They just say that this is a Cameroonian journalist and this is what identifies you as a journalist working in Cameroon. To encourage all those who have not subscribed, who have not come with their documents. You know, when we started, we had a lot of resistance, especially from the private press. But today, I was amazed that a group like Anecdote, we all know Anecdote is a big media house, Vision Card and all of that, we're able to meet the files of all the personnel of Anecdote. So we're encouraging every other media house to make sure their workers get the press card, and encourage the promoters of those media houses to provide the necessary documents government, because one of the problems most of the journalists have is that they don't have work contracts. Many people work in the private sector do not have work contracts. So we are encouraging the promoters of these media houses to make sure they get work contracts for their workers. They register them into insurances so that they are able to complete their files.
That was Tabe Enonchong, member of the Press Card Issuance Commission, speaking to reporters in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. In the report coming up next, we talk about the skyrocketing prices of tomatoes on markets across the Republic of Cameroon. Some weeks back, tomatoes were inundating markets in the country, and because supply was far above demand, the price dropped to as low as 2,000 francs CFA per kinja, and now it has risen back to more than 10 and even 11,000 francs CFA. Details in this report compiled by Innocent Azi.
Barely a few months ago, tomatoes inundated markets in Douala as well as other parts of Cameroon due to closing of borders with neighboring countries. The perishable goods, now sold at 10,000, 11 and 12,000 francs per basket, was being given to households as gift at the cost of 2,500 and 3,000 francs. Thus, the economic concept, supply greater than demand. Today, this concept has changed to demand exceeding supply. Traders and suppliers attribute the prevailing situation to opening of borders. Desperate business persons in neighboring countries affected by the closure of borders scramble over the perishable to heal their high demand, since they have been relying on Cameroon. Households now need to budget the sum of 800 francs to buy 8 tomatoes.
La tomate est très chère dans le marché. Ça ne va pas. Les ménagers trouvent ça cher, mais nous n'avons pas de choix.
Affording tomatoes at 100 francs will require negotiation.
La tomate commence à partir de 350 à 500.
Consumers are compelled to buy in order to serve food on the table.
Ces petites tomates que vous allez acheter à 300 francs, et je suis obligé d'acheter même si c'est cher. On va faire comment?
Tomato farmers in Cameroon destine the perishable products to neighboring countries like Equatorial Guinea, Gabon and many others to fetch enough income.
And we wrap up this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television with this news on the death of 2 persons at the construction site here in the nation's economic capital, Douala. And the 2 persons were working at the construction site with 2 other persons, and they died following the collapse of a huge quantity of soil while they were digging the foundation of a retaining wall. And the incident occurred earlier today. 2 of the 4 workers died on the scene. The accident occurred in Lokpom. It is a neighborhood in the Douala 5 subdivision. And that's it for this edition of the news. Thanks for staying with us. Goodbye.